Today we're going to take a look at 2.5, which is on solving compound inequalities. And the idea of a compound inequality is it's a problem you have, and there's usually a word in the middle. Sometimes it's the word and, other times you can have the word or. So we're going to take a look at how to solve both of those and how to graph them. All right, so up at the very top of your guided notes, you got a couple blanks to fill in with some sentences. And the first blank, it's in bold, what you want to write down. It says a compound inequality is an inequality formed by joining two inequalities with the word and. So now that's what's going to go on the second blank, and then in parentheses, and is called a conjunction. Or the word or. And then in parentheses, at the end, you can write what that's called. That's called a disjunction. So we're basically going to be solving conjunctions and disjunctions, ands and or problems. So now, what we want to think about it, what's an easy way to kind of think about what the graphs are going to look like? When you have a graph that's an and problem, pretty much all and problems have a certain look to them, and all or problems have a different look. Well, the graph of an and problem is basically what we call the overlap. So the graph of an and inequality is where the two graphs overlap. Okay, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Okay, we're going to do this on a separate page for a second. Let's say I had x is greater than or equal to 2, and x is less than 5. It's the same problem you guys have. I just want to do something a little different. Let's look at our number line. So we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to graph each one of these, but I'll do them in a separate colors. Okay, I'll do that one in red, and I'll do that one in blue. Okay, let's start with the red one. What kind of circle would I use to graph the problem in the red box? Yeah?
Closed.
Closed on what number?
On 2.
2. Closed on 2. And then shaded which way?
To the right.
To the right. So this one would look like this. And then let's do the blue one. So what kind of circle would we use for the blue one?
Open.
Open. And which way would I shade for that one?
Left.
We would shade to the left. So anything in blue is an answer to the blue problem. Anything in red is an answer to the red problem. Well, when we graph this, we need to graph everything that's an answer to both problems. Between what numbers do the red and the blue overlap? Yeah?
3 and 4.
Even more than that. Yep.
2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, they overlap from 2 to 5. Okay, that's where they overlap. So when we're graphing something like this, the real answer would have a closed circle on the 2. It would have an open circle on the 5 because the 5 doesn't have the equal to. And we would end up shading like that. So the red and the blue, that's kind of like some work that I might do off to the side or above just to kind of see what it looks like. And the one in black, that's what the final answer is. So what you really end up doing is connecting the dots. So you put a dot on one number, you put your dot or your circle on the other number, and then you shade between them. That's what an and usually looks like. So a lot of times, I don't even need to do this work up here. I can kind of tell if I just put my two circles and then shade in between them. That's what an and is going to look like. So let me write that down. So to graph an and, we're basically just connecting the dots. There are other cases that could come up with an and, but I think for what we're going to learn, this is pretty much sufficient. Connect the dots. I'm not going to worry too much about what's in parentheses there. You can write it, but I don't think we're going to get into something where that is not true. So. All right, so I'll just put the graph back here again. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes another way people do it is they say, okay, I'm going to put the closed circle on the 2. And then up above it, they just put a little arrow. You just say, okay, I know I'm going to go to the right from that one. And then they put the open circle on the 5. And they know, okay, I'm going to go to the left. So where you're going to end up shading is where the arrows are pointing. Everything between. That's the overlap when I showed it to you in different colors, where the red and the blue overlapped. Any questions on that? So the way this would work on Edge Elastic, you'll be able to do conjunctions, graphs like this. It'll probably have different tools at the bottom, and the tools might look something like this. There'll be one tool that has a filled-in circle on each end. One tool that has just a filled in on the left. One tool that has the filled in on the right. And then one tool that has the open on each end. So you'll pick the tool you need. In this case, it would be the second one. You'll click it, and then you'll just be able to click on the number line, and you can drag these open and closed circles wherever you need to put them. But that's kind of how it'll be set up on Edge Elastic. Okay, so an and has the look where it's between the circles. An or is the opposite of it. Okay, if and is everything between, or is like everything outside. Okay, that's what an or looks like. So with an or, we're not shading the overlap. We're shading everything that's outside the circles. Okay, so on your guided notes, it says for the graph of an or, we shade everything, you could even add if you want, outside the circle. So it's not in between them, it's outside. So to graph it, first thing you have to do is plot your two circles. They could be open, they could be closed. You could have 2 closed, 2 open, 1 of each, depends on the problem. And usually what happens is we end up shading in opposite directions. Let's try an example of an or. Okay, you guys, you already have a number line on your guided notes, right? But it's blank. Yeah. All right, so let's number it. We got to go from 3 to 6. Well, let's just start at 0 and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Numbering, knowing how to number the number line, it's not a huge deal because Edge Elastic is going to be numbered for you. So there's a number line. All right, let's start with this one. What kind of circle am I going to use for the first half of that? Open on what number? Yep, so let's do an open on 3. And which way are we going to shade for this one? Yep, it says x is less than 3. These are the numbers less than 3. So that's that one. Now let's look at the second one. X is greater than or equal to 6. What kind of circle? What number?
6.
And which way do I shade?
Right.
Yeah, we're going to shade to the right. So that is what an or looks like. Okay, so or has two arrows going in opposite directions, and is when you shade what's between. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. There'll be a video online later. Okay. Okay. So any questions on the difference between what an and looks like and what an or looks like? And doesn't have any arrows. It's just a little segment between. Or has two arrows in opposite directions. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at is when you have an and statement like this. That's perfectly fine to write it that way. You have one inequality, and then a separate inequality. But another way you can do it is you can put all that together. And we don't have to write the word and. So there's a shorter way to write conjunctions. There's no short way to write disjunctions. If you want to write something with an or, you have to write first inequality, or, and then second inequality. You can't shorten it. Right, but I'm going to show you how to shorten a conjunction. So here's an example. We'll do this one. So on your guided notes where there's a blank, after for example, we're going to write in this one. X is greater than -1 and X is less than 4. Another way to say that is it really means between. If you think of it that way, X is between -1 and 4. And I'm going to show you how to write that as a single statement without the word and. No, we're not going to have any word in it at all. We're just going to have inequality symbols, letters, and numbers. We won't have any words. And there's 3 steps. You guys have got 3 blank lines on your guided notes. So step 1. And I'm going to do this one. Yeah, I guess we'll kind of do this one off to the side. You guys, you have a little room on the guided notes. It says put the variable in the middle. Okay, what's the variable in that example? Yeah,
X.
X. So we're going to put the variable in the middle. Step 1. Okay. Step 2. Put the smaller number on the left and put the bigger number on the right. Let's see. So put the smaller number on the left and put the bigger number on the right. Okay, so here's your 2 numbers. What's the smaller number in that case? What is it?
-1.
-1. So put the smaller number on the left. All right. And put the bigger number on the right. What's the bigger number? Go. 4. Okay, so that's step 2. And now the last step is both inequality symbols should point towards the left, the smaller number. Whether or not you put a line under them, well, you have to look at the original problem. Did the symbol with the -1 have a line under it?
No.
No. Did the symbol with the 4 have a line under it?
No.
No. So we're not going to put any lines under our symbols. We're just going to make sure that they both point to the left, just like this. And what I just put a box around right there means exactly the same thing as what we wrote up above. Exactly the same thing. And the way you can see that it's kind of the same is if you kind of break it up like this. X is less than 4. Well, that's that part right here. And then the other part, X is greater than -1. That is in the blue box.
So you basically flipped one of them?
Yeah, you have to flip one of them to make it work. Yeah. But notice that what's in the blue box here and what's in the blue box here, they're the same thing. You have an X, a -1, and it's pointing at the -1.
But the thing is, X is sharing. So the green and blue is actually sharing.
Exactly. Yeah, the X is being shared, so you don't have to write it twice. Yeah, exactly. It's not the only way to do what I just did, but that's the way that we're generally we're gonna do it. Let's just try one more together. X is greater than 2, and X is less than 13. Okay, so step 1, what's going to go in the middle? Actually, let's change this one. Let's do a little different. Yeah, X in the middle. What's the smaller number? 2. What's the bigger number? 13. And both symbols need to point to the left. You just have to figure out if they have a line under it. Does the symbol I'm going to put between the 2 and the X have a line under it?
No.
No. Does the symbol between the X and the 13 have a line under it?
Yeah.
Yes. And there you go. That's how you take 2 and combine them together into 1. Any question on that?
Wait, so the X and 2, like how it's going to the 2, why do you flip it?
Because when you write it as a inequality that's all combined together like that, the rule is both of these have to point the same way.
Okay.
You can't have one pointing one way and one pointing the other way. They have to point the same way.
Well then, why are you choosing like that way, not this way?
Well, I wasn't going to show you, but technically I could do this. I can reverse everything, and this is still correct. That is another way to do exactly the same
So
thing.
either way you write, it'll be different, right?
Yes, if you wrote the bottom one, this would be correct.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stick with the top one. I'm not really going to do the bottom one with you guys. But in the bottom one, I reversed everything. Instead of putting the smaller number on the left, I put the bigger number on the left. And I put the smaller number on the right, and I flipped the signs. Okay, but we'll stick with the top one. That's a good question. All right. Any question on the question? Now, what if I had this? And what if I said to you, I want you to take that and split it back apart into 2. So I want you to take what's combined and rewrite it like this. Well, the first way you want to do it is just put boxes, kind of like I did up here, up there, like the blue box and the green box. Then you can kind of see the 2 separate things. There's one of them. And there is the other one. We'll put that one right there. And that's how you can split it back apart. Yep. Sure. Can somebody tell me what's the inequality in the red box? How do you read that one?
Isn't it X less than or equal to 1?
So what did you say, Eric?
1 is less than or equal to
Less than or equal to
X.
X. Yep. And then were you fixing it so that it was letter, symbol, number? Yeah, you can fix it. So letter, number, and what should it be pointing at when you rewrite it?
The 1.
The 1. Yeah. These are the same, but you do have to flip one of them to make it work. So that's why we flipped it back. So there's the inequality in the red box. And what's the inequality in the green box? Well, Eli?
X is less than 5.
Yeah. So and X is less than 5. So you can take 2 inequalities that are combined and you can split them apart, or you can take 2 inequalities that are split apart and combine them. Right? But that's only with an and. You'll never see that with an or. You can't do that. If it's an or, you're going to see the word or. All right, so let's try a couple of these. So example 1 says write the sentence as an inequality and graph. All right, let's try example 1A together, and then I'll let you guys do 1B. Can somebody tell me, like, what should I underline or like put a box around that tells me my first inequality? Just read to me up to the point where the first one stops. Yep.
I think x is greater than -8.
Perfect. That's the first one. X is greater than -8. So I need an x. I need a -8. And it says x is greater. So what way is the greater than point?
To the right.
Points to the right. Okay, there's your first one. X is greater than -8. And,
Less than or equal to 4.
right. Now, I'm not saying x twice here, right? I'm not, if you want to say it twice, you could say x is greater than -8 and x is less than or equal to 4. But usually once you already say it in the beginning of the sentence, you don't have to say the x twice. It's kind of like if I said, John went to the store and John bought bread and John came home. I could just say John went to the store and bought bread and came home. I don't have to keep saying the subject of the sentence over and over because we already know it's an x. So x is greater than -8 and that is also less than or equal to 4. So what would be my second inequality?
X is less than or equal to 4.
Yes, x is less than or equal to 4. Perfect. Now, it didn't say that you had to combine that together. It just said to write an inequality. We've done it. But if I did ask you to combine it together, what would you start by putting in the middle? Yeah,
X.
yep, put x in the middle. What number would go on the left?
The smaller one.
The smaller number, which is?
-8.
And the number on the right?
4.
Okay, we know both symbols are going to point to the left, just because we put the smaller number on the left. And what about the symbol between the -8 and the x? Should I put a line under it? What do you think, Marie?
That one.
Between the -8 and the x?
No.
No.
But for the other one we do.
But for the other one, we do. Yep. So both of those are correct. All right, scratch. All right, I got to go from -8 to 4. So that's a pretty, relatively big number line. So I'm not going to go by ones this time. I'm going to go by 2s. Okay, so let's make this -8, -6, 4, -2, 0, 2, 4, 6. Okay, that works. All right. How about Evelyn? What kind of circle on -8?
Open.
Open. Okay. Zach, what kind of circle on 4?
Closed.
Closed. And this is an and. So where do we shade when we have an and problem? Yeah, in the middle. It's like we connect the circles, right? So when we have an and, you should be used to seeing it either way. Okay? If you see it like the bottom way, you have to know that's an and, even though the word and isn't there. Think of it, it's like it's hidden. Okay? It's built into it. And that's it. That's how you graph it. Question on that one? All right, so why don't you guys try 1B. A number y is less than 0 or greater than 2. Right. And if you really want to spell it out, it's a number y is less than 0 or the number y is greater than 2. Right, so try that and then we'll take a look. Okay, so I updated mine because the guided notes, it had the equal to. So less than or equal to 0 or greater than or equal to 2. Alright, so the first one. Y is less than or equal to 0. So the letter is Y. Number is 0. And which way does the inequality symbol point?
Left.
Left? Line under it or no line?
Line.
Yep, it's got the line under it because it's got the equal to. And then what word am I going to put here before I write my second one?
Or.
Yes, this is an or. You don't always just put and. It depends what the problem says to do. It's happened a lot this year. At least like 5 times a week, 6 times a week. Even into almost November. So y is less than or equal to 0, or, and now the second one, it still has to have a letter, a symbol, and a number. So what letter are we still talking about right here?
Y.
We're still talking about y, and we're now comparing it to the number 2. And we're saying that it's greater than or equal. Which way does the inequality point?
Right with the line under it.
Right with a line under it. Okay. Can we combine that together and make it shorter? No, not for an or. That's as short as it gets. That's all you can do. All right, now we graph it. Let's see. We only have to go between 0 and 2 for a number line, so let's just go like that. All right. What kind of circle on 0?
Close.
Closed circle.
And going left.
And it's going to go to the left. Yep. What kind of circle on 2?
Close.
That's also closed.
And going right.
It's going to go to the right. And there you go. So, or, opposite directions, and is when you go between. Okay. Any question on that one? All right, let's try this one. Okay, give you guys a couple minutes to try that. So it's another and. So you have to solve each one separate and then graph it. All right, let's take a look at this one. Okay, the one on the left, we just have one step to get x by itself. Can anybody tell me how we're going to get rid of that 5?
You subtract it from both sides.
Yep. Subtract it from both sides. That's gone. Now, did I multiply or divide by a negative? No, I did subtraction. That sign never flips when you do subtraction. Okay, only if you multiply or divide by a negative. So we have x is greater than,
Negative 5.
what's negative 6 minus 5?
Negative 11.
Negative 11. Yep. Okay, so that's your first part. So if you got that, you get credit for solving the first one. Okay, and okay, now we have to solve the second one. This one has a couple steps. Eli, what's my first step to solve 3x plus 5 is less than 20?
Minus 5.
Yep. So minus the 5 from both sides, and 5 minus 5, that cancels. And I get 3x is less than 15. And Eric, what's my last step to get x by itself? Yeah, divide by 3. Did you divide by a negative?
No.
No. That's a positive 3. So should I flip the sign? No, don't flip the sign. 3's cancel. And what do I get for my final answer there? What's my inequality?
X is less than.
Perfect. X is less than 5. Okay, so there's our second one. And now we have to graph it. So we got to go from negative 11 all the way to 5 on the number line. So I don't think I'm going to go by 1s. Probably not going to have enough space. Maybe I'll just go by 2s. I think that'll be enough. So this will be negative 12, negative 10. I'm not going to number all of them. Negative 6, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 0, and then 2, 4, 6. Okay, so I went by 2s. Okay, what kind of circle on negative 11? Okay.
Open.
Open. Okay, how about Marie, what kind of circle on 5.
Close. Wait, no, open.
Open. So I got my circles. And where do I shade? Between or opposite?
Between.
Yeah, we're going to shade between because it's an and. So that is what you get for number 2A. Question on that one? All right, let's go to the back. We got 2 left. Let's see what we're going to do here. Let's do this one together. So I think you don't have it written down, so you'll have to write it, and then we'll solve it together, and then we'll do the last problem. (2x minus 5 is less than -1, or 3x plus 8 is greater than 29. All right, so we'll start with the one on the left. Lily, what's my first step for the inequality on the left?
You would plus 5 on both sides.
Yep, exactly. We're going to plus 5 on both sides. That would be gone. Zach, once I do that, what's still on the left side?
2x.
2x is less than. And Sam, what's -1 plus 5?
4.
Yep, perfect. Okay, and Eli, is x by itself?
No.
Nope, not yet. Still got to get rid of
2.
the 2. And how would I do that? Yeah, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 cancels out. How about, Molly, what do I get for my final answer?
X is, like smaller than 2?
Yeah, so x is less than 2, smaller than 2. Yep. Okay, or, and now we'll solve the other one. Marie, what's my first step to solve the one on the right?
You would subtract 8 from both sides.
Yep, good job. Subtract 8 from both sides. Should I flip the sign? I think I subtracted, so do we flip it when we subtract? No, we don't ever flip it when we subtract. And then 29 minus 8? 21. Good. And Madeline, what would be my last step to get rid of 3?
Divide 3 on both sides?
Yeah. And she said divide by 3. Do I flip it? Nope. Didn't divide by a negative. Okay, so 3's gone. And what do I get for my final answer?
7.
And what would be the whole thing?
X is greater than
Greater than 7. Yep. Perfect. And I'm going to hold off on graphing it, but when you graph it, would you connect between the dots or opposite?
Opposite.
Yeah, you'd go opposite. Go. Let's look at the last one. Did you guys already have that written on yours?
Yes.
And the temperatures are the same, 32, 105? Okay. So it says electrical devices operate best when they are basically between a certain temperature. It's too cold or too hot. Sometimes they don't work right. Sometimes they just shut off. Like if your cell phone gets really hot and leave it in the sun, it might just not even work, or you can't use like a camera or something like that. So we got to be between 32 and 105. It says write an inequality that represents that temperature range, being between 32 and 105. Well, the first thing we need is a letter. What letter should we use to represent the temperature of the phone?
T.
T. So we'll use T for temperature. And what's one thing that we know about the temperature? Let's start like on the cold side. We want to make sure that the temperature is what?
Between 32 and 105.
Okay, so between 32 and 105. So what does that mean about 32?
You can't be lower than 32.
Can't be lower than 32, so that means we want it to be
Greater than or equal to.
exact. We want the temperature to be greater than or equal to 32. We don't want it to be like 800. All right. So the temperature is greater than or equal to 32. And what else do we know about the temperature?
We want it to be 105 or less than or equal to.
Yeah, we want the temperature to be less than or equal to 105. That's it. Write an inequality that represents the temperature. We want it to be greater than or equal to 32 and less than or equal to 105. That's it. Any questions on that? All right, so that finishes up 2.5. Tomorrow we'll do 2.6. And then there is a review guide online. I said that'd be extra credit if you want to do it for the test. Reminder, homework is on Schoology. This is the last week of academics. So anything you gotta make up, really for any of your classes, make sure you talk to your teacher about that. And then the last day of new material is tomorrow. Last day of new material for the entire term.